Well, as it is the dog days of summer, that means a lot of us take the summer off, but not if you're running for public office like this gentleman here. Joining us on the newsline is J.D. Ford, state senator and candidate for Congress in the 5th Congressional District, being taken on Victoria Sparks. So, J.D., my friend, how's it going?
Hey Abdul, it's going well, and like you said, no rest for the wicked. Pedal to the metal. I know that people think that November is far away, but it truly isn't. It's only about less than 4 months, and so we and my team we're just working really hard to get out there and talk to voters and make the case as to why we think that Victoria Sparks should find another job.
So, what are you hearing from voters that you and your team are engaging with?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are hearing that the affordability issues are top of mind for folks. And so what that means is, gas prices, although, the governor has suspended the gas tax, I mean, people are still feeling the pain at the pump. And we're hearing about the rising cost of utilities. We are hearing about the grocery prices that are still exorbitant for a lot of people, and also the Iran war. Is it a war? Is it not a war? People are connecting the dots. They're seeing that the Iran war is forcing some of these high prices that they're currently seeing. And so, we're out there, we're talking with folks. That's what we're hearing. But we're also hearing is that the current occupant of this office is not doing anything to help resolve some of these issues. And so that's what we're hearing out on the campaign trail.
When people talk to you about affordability, obviously people want something done, but realistically, what can you, if you do get to Congress, what can you do about the affordability issue?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, we had a bipartisan, bicameral housing bill that actually the Congress could have, went out there and talked about and celebrated. But unfortunately, the president, the last minute, decided he was going to cancel the signing ceremony. And so, so that's something that we could have all been celebrating at this very moment in this juncture. But we need to make housing more affordable for Hoosiers. And a lot of what's happening is that we're seeing a lot of these international investors, swooping in and buying up homes and driving up the costs, for Hoosiers. So we need to continue to monitor that and make sure that we're talking about that. The cost of utility costs, we got to make sure that we stand up to some of these folks who are trying just to rubber stamp utility rate increases. In the state Senate, I voted to end the 7% sales tax on utility bills to help cut Hoosier costs. We also passed House Bill 1002, which I think is a step in the right direction. It's not the end all be all. And certainly our caucus provided a lot of amendments to that bill to see more relief for Hoosiers. But when people look at what I'm doing, I voted on things like this, and Victoria Sparks has been completely quiet and silent on things like this. And so people deserve a congressperson who is going to stand up for the fifth district and fight on their behalf. Talking about
What, sure, go ahead.
yeah, talking about those Trump tariffs that we're currently seeing. I mean, these are chaotic tariffs that have left our farmers with silos full of harvest, and they can't sell because of these chaotic tariff policies. And think about this, Abdul. I mean, our farmers are getting squeezed from both ends. They can't sell their products, and also the farm equipment that's coming into our country is being tariffed. And so, they're getting a squeeze from both ends. But I'm so proud of our farmers. I mean, they're such resilient folks, and I want to go to Congress to fight on their behalf and to, take a look at these, chaotic and erratic tariff policies that the Trump administration has put in that Congresswoman Sparks is supporting. And the other thing I'll say is that, in terms of affordability, we have got to take a look at our healthcare system. It's completely broken. And we know that we've got to lower the healthcare costs, for families, no matter where they live, so that they have access to affordable and quality care. And in the state Senate, I was able to help champion capping the price of insulin and EpiPens, and reducing the cost of prescription drugs, because so many of my constituents, that was top of mind for them. So So yeah, so there's a lot we can do, as members of Congress on the affordability front, and those are just some of my ideas, and I'd love to hear some of my opponents' ideas.
Our guest on the program today is J.D. Ford, state senator representing northwestern Pike Township, northwestern Annapolis, as well as parts of Zionsville and Carmel and that whole area. On the 5th Congressional District, be taking on Victoria Sparks in November. JD, something I'd love to get your thoughts on. Even though you're running for Congress, this still implies you because you were a state senator and sort of part of all this, the whole wheel tax thing that is taking place right now. You got the city of Annapolis, a lot of your colleagues took a tough vote, voted for it. They said they weren't crazy about it, but this was the hand that Indianapolis was dealt. We got Republicans saying, citizens are taxed enough, you can get out of the budget. What were your thoughts on the whole wheel tax debate? Like I said, not necessarily that it would affect you as a congressman, but it also impacts a lot of your constituents, and it happened because of the legislature.
Yeah, this, I think for me, I was helped, get the legislation across the finish line in regards to allowing the city county council to have this tool in their toolbox, to get that done. I think that the city county council is going to have to listen to their constituents. Gosh, I just wish that the legislature would get serious about, how we fund our roads in our state. I mean, the same money for rural roads is the same money that the Marion County is getting, I think is not the right approach. But this was the hand that we were dealt with as well. And so, as a state senator, I was thinking to myself, okay, well, do we do nothing, or do we do we give the locals this tool that they can use? And of course, the city county council, decided to take that tool up, and they're going to have to, listen to their constituents and figure out if this is the best move for the city. I will say this: one of the things that I hear nonstop is how much the potholes are in our city. In fact,
it's like the old video game Moon Buggy.
Yeah, right. I mean, people are busting rims and tires, and so you have to kind of think of, the trade-off here. Do I pay out of pocket, to, fix tires and rims and other suspension and other things with my car, or, do I pay a little bit more, to help with the wheel tax? And so, of course, people are going to have to figure that out, and encourage everyone to reach out to their city county councilor to express their concerns on that.
J.D. Ford, candidate for Congress, the 5th Congressional District, on the program today, taking on Victoria Sparks come November. J.D., let's switch back to the national issues on the national front. I know one of the big issues out there has been the issue of healthcare. Victoria Sparks is proposing legislation. How do we get healthcare costs under control?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, we got to fight to restore and protect Medicaid funding, and we're seeing that under attack at the state level, and I think we're also seeing it under attack, at the national level. Victoria Sparks voted for the one big beautiful bill, or the ugly bill as I call it, and that's going to kick off 650,000 Hoosiers, off their health care, which is not good. We need to oppose reckless budget cuts that threaten access to emergency and preventative care. We got to make sure we champion our rural hospitals. I mean, going back to that one big beautiful bill, this is going to have a severe impact on our rural hospitals across our state. And I had a friend who, lives out in the rural parts, and so they had to drive into Marion County for care, and that's what the reality is going to be, for a lot of Hoosiers in our state. And then the last thing I'll say is we got to protect reproductive freedom and ensure that every woman is in charge of her own healthcare decisions. I mean, these are the healthcare decisions that people need to make with their healthcare provider. And I think that, as my opponent says, less government. She wants government to be all up in your business, all up in your exam room, all up in your bedroom. And I think that, we need to have a serious conversation about how we can, get government out of these places.
Obviously, JD, I see your point about protecting Medicare, protecting seniors, protecting rural Hoosiers, the whole 9 yards. We also have like this massive multi-trillion-dollar debt that's out there. It's almost sort of an existential threat, so to speak. Like I said, we're borrowing from our children, grandchildren, and it becomes more of our gross domestic product. So my question is, how do you balance getting our debt under control but still maintaining access to these programs that you feel are important for you and your constituents?
Yeah, that's a great question, Abdul. And I think the first thing I'll say is that I don't want to be lectured by my opponent this upcoming next 4 months of the campaign about being fiscally responsible when she voted for the one big beautiful bill, which is going to raise our deficit. And we're giving fistfuls of cash to the billionaire class of our country. We're bending over backwards for them, and we are squeezing the little guy. And I think that's the difference between what I'm trying to do when I run for Congress is I'm fighting for the people of the fifth district. Unfortunately, Victoria Sparks, she's fighting for the corporations and the billionaires of our country, and she's doing the bidding for that. And so, in my mind, as we continue to cut programs and services, the things that people absolutely need, she's busy saying, okay, the billionaires, you can get more money on the backs of people of the fifth district, and that's not okay.
Speaking of the fifth district, obviously the fifth district is a very diverse district, both ethnically, economically. I mean, you name it. You got very rural parts, very urban parts, very suburban parts. What message do you think carries to all those voters, regardless of whether you live in the country, in the city, or in suburbia?
Yeah, I think the message that I'm just trying to say to people is that Victoria Sparks is for Donald Trump and I'm for you. And in some, I'm running to be the adult in the room. I'm running to provide practical and pragmatic solutions. Go to Congress and fight for people as opposed to go to Congress and fight for the billionaires and the corporations. Everyday people are being squeezed by some of the policies that's happening right now. And so, I want to, like I said, go to Congress to fight against those corporations and fight against getting those tax breaks. I want the, middle class, to thrive. I think that's what happens when you see a good, successful economy is when people are feeling good about themselves, when they can go to the grocery store and not have doubt on whether or not they should, buy the extra, jar of peanut butter or jelly that people are having to figure out. I want to make sure that we keep Hoosier affordability at the top of the list and work to lower those utility prices, to work those gas prices, make housing more affordable for Hoosiers in our state, lower those healthcare costs, talk about senior care, talk about child care. I mean, these are the things that I think people talk about when they're sitting around their kitchen tables. And so my message is very simple to them. Let's talk about the things that you care about. I think moving forward, I think Victoria Sparks is going to try the doom and gloom approach, which we've seen Republican candidates do these past couple of election cycles. So I hope people see that. I hope they dismiss it. And I hope that they take a look at what I'm trying to do, which is fight for the people of the fifth district.
Well, if people want to save on peanut butter jelly, I recommend buying Goober. So it's okay. I'm just throwing that out there. JD Ford with us for a few more minutes on the program today as we talk about his candidacy for the fifth district. JD, obviously you're running against Victoria Sparks in the November election, but it seems like Democrats had some of their own sort of internal back and forth. The Blythe Potter, Bo Bai race, Destiny Wells, Andre Carson. It seems almost sort of like whereas the Republican side you have the far right versus the more moderate crowd. You guys have the more progressive, slash Democratic socialists up against more moderate Democrats. I'm thinking, Jesse Brown and Hollis in the council. How do you sort of unite those wings of your party together to keep an eye on the big picture?
Yeah, I think the big picture is that we are one big tent of a party, and we are able to have these conversations, and have dialogue with different folks. And in our race, I had 7 primary candidates, and the people of our district spoke. They said, "Look, we took a look at all 7 candidates, and we think that JD Ford is our best shot." And so I'm proud that I won the nomination. I'm working really hard to raise the money, go out there and knock doors, and talk to people and meet them where they are. This past weekend we celebrated the 250th birth of our nation, July 4th festivities and celebrations. We did 3 parades on Saturday, and I got to be on the ground listening to Hoosiers, and to me that's where I want to continue to be. Stay grounded. When I listen to people, it makes me a better legislator, makes me a better candidate, because these are the issues that I want to go out there and fight for. So yeah, I mean, I think we're always going to have these difficult conversations, but I think that's important for us and healthy for us to have those conversations in our party.
Victoria Sparks won 55-45 in her primary to a candidate who didn't have a whole lot of money, which kind of goes to maybe some personality issues with Victoria. So my question is, how do you reach out to those maybe some of those primary voters who didn't necessarily vote for Victoria Sparks for one reason or another?
Look, the thing I'll say first and foremost is that you have a home here. You have a home in our campaign. You'll notice, Abdul, that I have not attacked Republicans. I have not attacked independents. I need those folks. And I'm very well aware of that. I think that those Lugar Daniel Republicans are without a home right now. I think they're not going to call themselves Democrats, but also they're not calling themselves Trump Republicans either. And so I want to speak directly to them and let them know that I'm staying right in the middle, because I think that's where the rest of America is. They want someone who's going to be pragmatic, someone who's going to be practical, someone who's going to be a fighter and to stand up, and say, look, if it's a good deal for the fifth district, I'm going to vote for it. If it's a bad deal for the fifth district, I'm going to vote against it. And I think that I want those folks to know that you have a home here in our campaign.
Final question for you, my friend. Obviously, we had a pretty healthy fundraiser not too long ago, more than $360,000 raised in the second quarter. How much do you expect to spend? Obviously, Victoria has means of her own, can spend easily a couple $1 million and change.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. I think that really goes to show the momentum and the strength of our campaign. I mean, we raised that kind of cash in the middle of the dog days of summer, and I think it goes to show you that there's a lot of health, there's a lot of strength, there's a lot of excitement, enthusiasm, to replace Victoria Sparks with somebody who is going to actually work for the people of the fifth district. And so we're going to continue to keep reaching out, to those grassroots folks. I mean, I'm really proud, to have, just regular everyday Hoosiers just giving 15, 25 bucks, whatever they can give. And I'm extremely grateful because in this economy, in this Trump economy that we're living in, for people to give over whatever that they can give, is I'm truly grateful for that. So we're going to continue to keep working hard, continue to raise the money. I mean, there's no lie. I mean, I know that, money in politics, I hate it, but it is the system that we're currently operating in. Until we can actually get to Congress and do meaningful campaign finance reform, we got to keep raising the cash, to be on TV, to be in people's mailboxes, and to do those digital ads, because I want to make sure that I'm reaching out to every person in the fifth district who can hear my message, and I want to leave no stone unturned.
All right. Well, our guest on the program today has been State Senator J.D. Ford, candidate for Congress, a Democratic candidate in the 5th Congressional District. J.D., my friend, always great to talk to you. Thank you for being with us. We'll talk to you again. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you, Abdul. Take care of yourself.